Protecting human rights, disabilities, indigenous, disabled people worldwide. This is my article, and I'm just noting this electronically because some of my articles that have been published have been removed from the internet, and also one of my articles that I published has recently been removed from Facebook. I'm going to read this. I have recently learned that the British government is cutting funding to disabled people in the UK, and Paralympic athletes in the UK are also losing funding support in public programs. Petition, however, I start on any level of criticism towards the UK government decision with skepticism on international governance. Canada is a Commonwealth country. There's no need for concern as the shift in governmental power and where international groups of governance does not get out of control to the point of human rights abuses and mass genocide. It is this shift in power toward global governance and an elimination of human rights from within infrastructure of levels of government. Threatening the lives of disabled people, no matter what their background or disability, is deeply disturbing and offensive and a disgrace to all people, including indigenous people. Medical human rights and legal issues affecting caregivers, personal support workers, and representatives. Whom will protect us when our government turns against us to finance projects in other countries? There's a new study on the UN Enable EC 192036, Achieving Indigenous Rights in Inclusion and Development, Children of Indigenous Systems, that their level of support comes from within their own system. But many of disability needs are created as actions of government itself, including wars created by banks, governments, and government financiers, including shadow governments. A right to live out a natural life with acceptable standard of health. In Canada, Indigenous people suffered and have died as a result of resources of the Alberta tar sands affecting the Indigenous populations, causing disability and death. The family's loss and suffering, it takes years of lobbying government who makes profit from international investment into these very resources. The Queen Elizabeth Windsor and Prince Philip are under scrutiny for the Indigenous genocide of children in Canada since the 1960s and 1970s, and the residential schools closed in 1997 is still under investigation by the ITCSS, reference Reverend Kevin Annett. Will compensation ever be monetary or surrendering of assets and Crown land? It is difficult to determine, but this case is still underway. This includes intergenerational trauma in the study by the UN Section 3 of EC 192036, the World Report about people with disabilities, including Indigenous cultures, access to all life activities. I dare not imagine a public assembly on the issue in the UK of people in wheelchairs and all kinds of people with disabilities, what safeguards are in place for their protection. The role of the World Bank with international organizations. Canada has signed with the UN declarations of human rights of people having disabilities. Canada's Constitution was the first to make a commitment to equality before the law, equal rights and protection of Canadians with disabilities. Section 15 has legal value in a Commonwealth country. Canadians recognize their sovereignty and rights under the Canadian Constitution, and recommended people in other countries learn the same action, what concessions under constitutional law, how government treats people with disabilities with universal recognition. In Canada, this includes Bill C-400 in areas of homelessness. The Convention of Rights with Persons with Disabilities is in 20 countries. The UN more proactive in more than promoting rights of people with disabilities, accountability with commitment on an international level. With all conflicts that are arising as tensions in the Middle East and in Syria, there are more people with disabilities as a result of ongoing war and conflict. There is an economy of peace that includes all people experiencing disabilities, and while resources are being redirected by world leaders, and people with disabilities be compensated for loss and suffering more than mental health treatment, be compensated on all levels, including rights to own land, medical treatment, and any other resources to be able to give a legitimate, adequate living standard. Thank you.